Mas. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having us here. Madam Ambassador, Prof. Van Dijk, thank you for the contributions. Today, it's my job to say a bit about the how question. We have heard for 1.5 days now what should be done, and what's going wrong, and what's going well. In this session of Triple Helix, we would like to see if we can dive a bit deeper into the how question. How can we do it? And I want to use the experience of Maastricht School of Management to do that. If I briefly summarize what we have heard, or what I have heard the past 1.5 days, about 25% of all the Greek farmers are ready to innovate and ready to absorb the funds to move on. We can call them the new generation, and they are the generation that can embrace innovation. I heard this morning that this generation, this 25%, is able to, let's say, make that step to produce more with less, and to focus on the value chain rather than on the primary production. So it's this 25% that deserves a lot of attention in the future, in the near future, using the funds that Prof. Van Dijk just mentioned. They need the support to be able to farm as a business through coaching and business planning, and through digitalized trainings and short courses. And also to get support to innovate, to refresh their minds, to bring them up to speed with the current technologies. So for that, examples were mentioned, such as learning labs, digital technology, vertical networks, and think beyond the primary production. So it was also said that for that we need platforms, either digital and or physical. And that in those platforms, using those platforms, we can then move on with co-creation, where the economic and environmental and social actors and economic and environmental and social aspects will be melted into a melting pot, and where innovation is then created, taking care of those three. So the goal of the Triple Helix, in a way, is to attract those young people to become farmers, to become innovative farmers and sustainable farmers, and to become bankable farmers, so that the banking sector does dare to take that step and invest money in their growth. And then from there, be able to move forward and to the so-called, that's not my, I quote, technological pathways to promote transformation and sustainability. Now, in order to do that, we need effective governance of the agri-food system, and I think Triple Helix is about the governance of that. So, very brief. Effective governance of the agri-food sector, implementing the CAP and the Green Deal programs just mentioned by Prof. So I briefly want to take you through the why of the Triple Helix. Number 2, the how can we plan for Triple Helix? How can we implement it? Number 3, what types of services can a Triple Helix provide? Let's also stick to the reality. What can a Triple Helix do and what not? And the way forward for Greece. So, Triple Helix, why? It's a multi-actors approach. It's all about, for co-creation, we need the multi-actors on board. So who is in? It's all the value chain actors that drive the sector. It's the government, especially regional government, local government, as policy makers and implementers. It's the academia for knowledge and skills. But it's also the civil society, increasingly important, because they are the drivers of change. And whereas in the past it was more the economic factors, nowadays, and in the context of the discussions of the past 1.5 days, for sustainable growth, We need that civil society on board. Financial institutions, the banks, speakers just before us, and of course representatives from trade, industry, employee organizations, and so on. So jointly those groups should sit together, and whereas we start, Triple Helix is government, business and knowledge, in fact we should create that diamond and have them all on board and co-create. So how plan for a triple helix? In a way, what we can say is that we set objectives. I don't know which one is. No. There's objectives that we set, and in this case, how we usually do it at Maastricht School of Management, when we implement the triple helix, we look at the region, we look at the needs of the region and the situation in that region, and we then say, well, what is the specific purpose of this triple helix? And those are then looked at in the middle. Then we look at, okay, what are the partners that need to be on board? What is the value chain? Okay, horticulture, we need input, production, trade, all those guys that have to do with make that value chain work. But also knowledge, the agriculture TVET colleges, the universities, the research institutes, and of course local and regional government, including ministries, but also NGOs, CSOs, civil society organizations, and of course also funders, so in this case EU funds. On the left-hand side, we then say, okay, what is it that we're going to do? What specific actions can we take in terms of knowledge? So can we set an applied research agenda? Did we do an updated labor market needs assessment? Are the TVETs learning the right thing? Is their curriculum still up to date, etc.? There's also an innovation space that the triple helix will then take care of. From our point of view, that should always be farmer focused, not to make it an academic exercise, not to make it a public exercise, but it should be farmer focused. They're the beneficiaries of this triple helix. It's the farmers that need to grow, especially the 25%. So value chain clusters, how can we cluster them around lead firms? What kind of enterprise upgrades can we think of? What is the innovation ecosystem that needs to be developed? The next speaker will also dive into one of those innovative ecosystems. Can we design centers of excellence where we share experiences, share best practices, co-create together? And then, of course, we need consensus space, so share the visions, farmer field days, company visit, exposure visits, guest lectures, internships, forums, and so on. Keep on talking, like Ms. Savvaki said. The implementation will then have several steps. So, like I said, it's important to start with a labor market needs assessment to really understand what the industry needs. Because so often, whether we're in Greece or in Holland, the education institutes or the research institutes, they believe they know, but in fact, they're always a few steps behind the innovations in the industry. So keep understanding what the labor market, which are the future employers of your graduates, to know what they need. Also for lifelong learning, what sort of educations, short courses should be offered to those young farmers to stay up to date. Second, the actual establishment of the triple helix, industry, knowledge, policy partnerships. We just discussed it. Then create that new generation of farmers. It's not about knowledge, it's about competencies, it's about skills, it's about attitudes, especially the attitudes of those youngsters, that once they graduate, they have the right mindset to actually make it happen and make money in agri. Blended learning curricula, teaching methods, create industry networks so that they already, while studying, have this link to the industry, internship projects, student projects, and so on. Then, of course, to have a better link to institutionalize a center of excellence which could be built around, for example, a horticulture greenhouse that is based at the college, at the university, but in close collaboration with the industry, where they work together and innovate together and do practical trainings for the students. And finally, digitalization. During this conference, we have looked a lot at this very high-tech robots and drones spraying crop protection and seed. But I think we can also start at a lower scale and just be able to organize online short courses for those professionals that cannot go back to school. They don't have the time for that. So offer 5-day, 2-day short courses to stay up to date, fully online from the telephone. But also continue to train through those short courses the TVET or the college or the university staff, because in the end it's the teachers that train the students. And if they are for 20 years in a classroom, how can they train the students to be practical? So it is then that we feel as Maastricht School of Management that once we have that ready, we can then scale up and link those hubs to other hubs in the country and to hubs, similar hubs in the Netherlands, in other EU countries, and create that network of triple helix hubs. As a triple helix, I won't go into this, but one example is that after working closely with the industry, you will feel that what is it that we can do as a triple helix and what is a step too far, which is not within our reach, but even access to finance. You know, the farmer issue is that basically I don't have the collateral, but I'm young, I belong to the 25%, I need finance. So good, as a local triple helix, as a local platform of industry and banks and academia, let's make sure that there's a funding alert system for upcoming tenders. Let's share best practice of how did you get the finance. Oh, then I might also be able to do that. Guest speakers from banks. The bank was here this morning. Okay, let's invite those same persons and say, well, now practice what you preach. We have here 10 youngsters with a good business plan. How can we finance them? Give us a guest lecture on that. So this is a sort of a menu of offering of dishes that the triple helix can offer, and very well down to earth. And finally, my final slide, the way forward would be that on the right, the agri-production could be, you can look at production from a regional focus or from a production focus, a sector focus. And on the left-hand side, there the Education Institute. So how can we create agri-clusters whereby we say, well, for example, the region of Crete is very strong in greenhouse production, tomato, cucumber, pepper. How can we bring within that horticulture chain the production, the processors, the business and the trade together with Institute A and B that deals with that horticulture and trains students to become experts in horticulture, and build a center of excellence where as a triple helix you have more than just a table and you discuss, but develop centers of excellence together with the private sector. So whether you have your greenhouse at the TVET or you work together with a private greenhouse operator and you say, can you dedicate one greenhouse out of your 10 greenhouses for our training, for our triple helix? This is how we do it at MSM, at Maastricht School of Management, and this is how I feel and we feel it can be done in Greece, and it should be done in Greece. And like Mr. Savvaki said, it's time to talk and sit down rather than piling up the plans and not working with those plans. Thank you very much.